Okay, synthetic sex identity. I printed it out. It's kind of thick. I'm going to read it and give some commentary as we go. And the family that's pushing all this, it all adds up in the timeline. Back in 2015-16, when they opened the gender clinic here in Oregon, that's after this foundation that this family had started. It's all in that time frame. And my husband had a vasectomy reversal so we could have our youngest, and that was back in 2001. And I know that when he had that, the nurse there said that she had been working on a few assignment surgeries. So I can't believe it's been this long, and I didn't realize how much of a danger to humanity this is. And I really didn't even know, or I didn't think about it, or I didn't think it through. Anyways, the drag queens are the one that brought it to light for me, and Budweiser beer, and Nike. The billionaire family pushing synthetic sex identities. And I'm going to put it on the screen for you guys too, but it's easier for me to read like this. And this is an article by Jennifer Bilek. I'm not sure how to say her name. I've seen her on a bunch of shows. And I want to tell her thank you. She's been sounding the alarm about this for probably 10 years. And I'm going to link a video below that I'm watching right now. And I cannot believe it only has 822 views from 1 year ago. We got to get watching these channels and give them their likes and subscribe so that the word can get out more. And this not be raising red flags for everybody. How can that happen? And, I just need to get my voice out there because I want my future family to know that I did not stand for this and I do not think it's right. And I feel like one of those ladies back in Germany that was taken to the concentration camps and made to walk through there and say, see what was going on? And the woman going, oh my God, I had no idea this was going on. Well, that's how I feel. And I won't be gaslit, and I will just keep talking about it because I know eventually it's going to come out that this is wrong. This is wrong. This all started from a guy named John Money. 2 little twin boys. They went in to get circumcised, and the machine malfunctioned on the first one and burnt his penis off. So this guy, John Money, was on the news starting these sex changes, and the parents seen it, and they thought, maybe this will be the answer. And the guy was a sick perv. And that's what all this research is based on, from what I'm understanding from Jennifer Bilek. I'm going to have to learn how to say her name. Yeah, I mean, I just feel from the very, my very inner being, my very gut of my very soul, that this is not the way. This is not the way to continue things. And I'm wondering if this is why people are having a hard time finding doctors now. Besides the pandemic, are they all going into gender care? I have no idea. Anyways, let's read the article. The billionaire family pushing synthetic sex identities. The wealthy, powerful, and sometimes very weird Pritzker cousins have set their sights on a new godlike goal, using gender ideology to remake human biology. You can't remake human biology. They're going to breed everybody out of existence. And I honestly think at some point, they're just going to sterilize everyone, and only the few lucky chosen ones are going to be able to even procreate on Earth. They're going to create a new Earth that they want. That's what I think. Current Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and philanthropist Jennifer Pritzker appear to have used a family philanthropic apparatus to drive an ideology and practice of disembodiment into our medical, legal, cultural, and educational institutions. I first wrote about the Pritzkers, whose fortune originated in the Hyatt hotel chain, and their philanthropy directed towards normalizing what people called transgenderism in 2018. I have since stopped using the word transgenderism, as it has no clear boundaries, which makes it useless for communication, and have instead opted for the term SSI, which more clearly defines what some of the Pritzkers and their allies are funding. even as it ignores the biological reality of male and female and gay and straight. And I agree. The creation and normalization of SSI speaks much more directly to what is happening in American culture and elsewhere under an umbrella of human rights. With the introduction of SSI, the current incarnation of the LGBTQ plus network, as distinct from the prior movement that fought for equal rights for gay and lesbian Americans, and which ended in 2020 with the Bostick versus Clayton County, finding that LGBTQ plus is a protected class for discrimination purposes. It is working closely with the techno-medical complex, big banks, international law firms, pharma giants, and corporate powers to solidify the idea that humans are not a sexually dimorphic species, which contradicts reality and the fundamental premise of not only of traditional religions, but of the gay and lesbian civil rights movements, and much of the feminist movement, for which sexual dimorphism and resulting gender differences are foundational premises. Through investments in the techno-medical complex, where the new highly medicalized sex identities are being conjured, the Pritzkers and other elite donors are attempting to normalize the idea that human reproductive sex exists on a spectrum. No, it doesn't. It has to be an egg and a sperm. That comes from a male and a female. You can't argue with that. They can't invent new sperms or eggs. I mean, maybe like 500 years in the future, but that's our biology now, and that's our biology that we have always been. Where was I? Through investments in the techno-medical complex, where the new highly medical sexed identities, the Pritzkers and other elite donors are attempting to normalize the idea that human reproductive sex on a spectrum. These investments go towards creating new SSI using surgeries and drugs, and by instituting rapid language reforms to prop up these new identities and induce institutions and individualize to normalize them. It's not normal. You know, I was willing to not say a word when I just thought it was adult men for the most part, and some women. But, if an adults, have a thing, whatever floats their boat, I don't care. But when I hear that they're doing this to children, and the drag queens, that a lot of stuff came together all at one time for me to go, what is going on? Nothing's making sense anymore. With Lisa, I don't know, that just kind of opened the floodgates for me. I just see so many, I just want my future generations to know how I feel about this stuff. And I don't feel good about it. Okay. In 2018, for example, at the Ronald Reagan Medical Center at the University of California, Los Angeles, where the Pritzkers are major donors and hold various titles, the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology advertised several options for young females who think they can be men to have their reproductive organs removed, a procedure termed gender-affirming care. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for this video. I did just want to bring up how that just right there fits into my, I'm kind of thinking of how things went throughout my life and how we ended up here and all that stuff. Well, I remember back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when Ronald Reagan was president. I remember that because that's like one of the, the first big elections that I thought, I was a real adult, read the voters pamphlet, made my vote. And I think I probably voted for Ronald Reagan because he had been in the movies. Anyways, I voted for Ronald Reagan, and that's when they decided that women that had children could not just be on welfare anymore. They started the Back to Work program. All the women, I can't remember back then what the specifics were, but I know that's when it happened because I had small kids and I thought, wow, I don't see how this is going to work out. Anyways, here we are. But that happened. And then in the 90s, in the early 90s, when they came up with the brain drugs, They closed the mental institutions. Geraldo Rivera, he had done a 2020. There was a show in America called 2020 at the time. It had Barbara Walters, Hugh Downs, Geraldo Rivera. It was one of my favorite shows. I watched it every Friday night at 10 o'clock. That was my thing. Because I had babies. I have kids with special needs. I wasn't out running around when I was a teenager. I was at home. So my favorite show was 2020. And I remember seeing the shows about the mental institutions. And I thought, oh, my God, that is horrific. That's bad. So they decided, well, let's get these people in the community and get them help and everything. And that is a good idea. I don't think anybody should live in a horrific place. I don't want anybody to get me wrong in how I feel about this. So then they came out with the brain drugs. That's when all the Prozacs and the Effexors and the serotonin thing, which I have since learned, they say that that's not even a thing, the serotonin thing. I'll probably have to do a video about that. So those drugs came out. Well, see, what happened is they thought that they could cure everybody's mental illness with these new brain drugs that they have. And everything would be fine. They could just go live in the community and everything would be okay. Close the mental institutions for the most part. I know there's still some, but I can't imagine what a person even has to do to get into one, looking at the people living on the streets these days. What kind of society lists people that mentally cannot care for themselves just to live out in the streets and fend for themselves? I realize it's expensive. They need to build new institutions, and I don't think they should be bad places. I think they should be nice places where people can go and enjoy their existence on Earth. That's what I think. I don't think them living in the streets, dying, doing drugs, being taken advantage of is helping anybody. And it's certainly not helping society, because now society is getting hella pissed. Nobody can go to their parks without finding drug needles. So maybe they're not mentally ill. I understand people are down on their luck and, shit happens. I get that. But something has to be done to kind of weed out who can, recover and be, not crapping in the streets, and who needs to be in a place where they can be taken care of. There's been abuse claims against rest homes for old people. They don't close all of those. They fix the problem. There's going to be issues in the great big institutions like that. People aren't perfect. But I do not see the answer that we're doing as the answer to anything these days. Yeah, I guess these are my rant fests because honestly, my husband's tired of hearing about it. Probably my mom and my daughter is too, but, and now this. I've raised enough kids. I've been around enough kids to know how little kids are, and I cannot. One time my niece, she was at daycare, and the daycare took them to church. They went to church night, and the kids went to the daycare part. And when the babysitter came back to get the kids, my niece had convinced the daycare that her name was Sally the High Wire Walker from a cartoon back then. And they wouldn't give the babysitter her. They would not give it, They said, this is not Sarah, this is Sally. True story. Kids want to be all kinds of things when they grow up. And you should encourage them to be all those things, but you should not be giving them hormones, and you should not be encouraging them to be the opposite sex. I mean, okay, so you're the opposite sex, whatever. But at least this gives you some place to start and get some understanding for yourselves of what is really going on. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for now and, give you some things to talk about. Let me know what you think in the comments. And honestly, I'm not against anybody. I'm not trying to anger the transgender world or the drag queen world, but they need to stop and really think and look at this and realize this is not, people don't want this. Obviously, look at Budweiser. I don't know. Their stock looks like it's coming back up a little, but, everybody should realize that rich people, they can just do that themselves, They just they can just go buy beer. They can just themselves take $2 million and say, I'm buying this beer. So I'm not really going by that too much. It's going to be long term. Maybe there is that big of a transgender community and the stocks will fly off the charts. We'll see. The numbers will tell. The numbers will tell about who I feel the biggies in corporate America, who they're in bed with, who they're more loyal to. But in the long run, they need to be more loyal to their customers, because in the long run, the rich people can only bail you out so much. That's what I think. Or maybe a new investor. I have no idea. Like I said, I didn't even finish high school. I'm just going by what seems like common sense in the world. And it's not making sense to me. So on the 18th birthday, 1968, 12 million. See, I don't know that much about this family. 12 million. Well, let's see. We'll look at that real quick. And I'm sorry my videos are kind of glitchy and some of the videos are not quite right in the pictures, but I'm doing my best. And I want to say thank you, for subscribing, and thank you for commenting. And yeah, we'll just see where this all ends up in 5 or 10 years, I guess. Okay, I'm off to do more research. I'll see you next time. Bye.